So apparently, some Republican lawmakers watched Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime performance, the one that generated 4 billion views in 24 hours, broke NFL Instagram records, and delivered the message that only love defeats hate, and their immediate reaction was to call it pornographic filth that required government investigation. Not inspiring, not historic, not culturally significant. Filth. And now the FCC has completed its investigation and found exactly what anyone who actually watched the performance already knew. There was nothing to find. Absolutely zero violations. No indecency, no fines for the NFL or NBC. Case closed. The government spent real resources investigating a halftime show that turned out to be completely clean, and the whole thing collapsed like a house of cards built by people who were angry about something they couldn't quite articulate but were determined to punish anyway. Shh. Turn the volume up, but keep it low. This is Rap Deepest Secrets, the one place the labels can't control, exposing the codes, the cover-ups, the real cost of fame. Help us to monetization by subscribing. Now, back to the video. Let's break down exactly what happened here, because the details are simultaneously hilarious and genuinely concerning depending on which angle you approach them from. Florida Representative Randy Fine led a group of Republican lawmakers in formally requesting an FCC investigation into Bad Bunny's performance. The complaint labeled the Spanish-language set as pornographic and filth that required immediate government intervention. Read that again. Pornographic, filth, immediate government intervention. For a performance that ended with the message, "Only thing more powerful than hate is love." For a performance where Bad Bunny wore a jersey honoring his late uncle. For a performance that broke the NFL's all-time Instagram record with a message about unity and healing. That performance was called pornographic filth by elected officials with enough institutional power to actually trigger a federal investigation. And here's where it gets sus. The complaints were based on songs like Zafaera, tracks from Bad Bunny's studio catalog that contain explicit content in their original versions. The complainants heard these song titles in the setlist and assumed the explicit studio versions were what actually aired on national primetime television. There's just one problem with that assumption. It's completely wrong. The FCC investigation found that all potential profanity had been effectively censored or altered for the live broadcast. Everything that aired on NBC during the Super Bowl halftime show complied fully with broadcast standards. The version of Zafaera that went out to over 100 million viewers was appropriately edited for primetime television, exactly as required by law, exactly as every Super Bowl performance is handled. Sources confirmed the complaints were based on studio versions of tracks, not what actually aired on live television. If you're already seeing the problem here and wondering how elected officials can trigger federal investigations based on music they apparently never actually listened to in context, you need to hit that subscribe button right now, because this story reveals something deeply concerning about how political outrage operates in 2026, and it goes way beyond one halftime show. The FCC has now shelved the matter entirely. No fines, no violations, no evidence of indecency. The NFL and NBC are completely clear. The investigation is over. What remains are a series of questions that deserve honest examination. First question, did the lawmakers who called this performance pornographic filth actually watch the full halftime show before making those statements? Because anyone who watched it would know Bad Bunny honored his late uncle, delivered a message of love and unity, and performed in front of waving flags representing Latin American unity. That's not pornography. That's a cultural celebration. Second question, if they did watch it, what specifically triggered the pornographic filth designation? Because the FCC, an agency that exists specifically to regulate broadcast indecency, reviewed the same performance and found nothing. If professional regulators, whose entire job is identifying broadcast violations, found 0 violations, what exactly were the Republican lawmakers seeing that the FCC missed? Third question, is it possible that Spanish language performance at the Super Bowl was the actual objection, and pornographic filth was just the language used to make that objection sound legitimate? Because here's the thing that keeps sitting uncomfortably in the back of this story. Bad Bunny performed entirely in Spanish. For many of the people who complained, that alone was the problem. The language, the culture, the unapologetic Latinidad on the biggest American stage, the refusal to translate or adapt or make the performance comfortable for audiences who prefer their entertainment in English. But you can't publicly complain that a Super Bowl performer should have spoken English. That would be honest, but politically catastrophic. So instead, the performance gets labeled pornographic filth, a federal investigation gets launched, and the whole machinery of government gets briefly pointed at a man who performed a clean show in his native language. The FCC found nothing because there was nothing to find. But the investigation still happened. The labels still got applied. The headlines still read FCC investigates Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance before they read FCC finds no violations. And in the court of public opinion, accusation and investigation often linger longer than exoneration. That's how this works. That's the playbook. Create enough noise around something that people remember the accusation even after the investigation proves it groundless. Plant the seed of doubt about whether the performance was appropriate even after an official federal agency confirms it absolutely was. Subscribe right now because understanding how this kind of manufactured outrage operates is essential for anyone trying to navigate information in 2026. And this case study is one of the clearest examples we've seen recently of exactly how it functions. Here's the twist that makes this story almost poetic in its irony. Bad Bunny's performance generated 4 billion views in 24 hours. It broke NFL Instagram records. It moved his album 42 places up UK charts in a single week. It delivered a message of love and unity that resonated with hundreds of millions of people across cultural and language barriers. And the response from a segment of American political leadership was to call it pornographic filth and demand a federal investigation. The investigation found nothing. The performance was clean. The complaints were based on studio versions of songs that weren't even played in their original form. The government spent resources on an inquiry that concluded exactly where it should never have started, at 0. But here's what the investigation actually accomplished, even in its failure to find anything. It kept Bad Bunny's name in political news cycles for weeks after the Super Bowl. It created controversy where none actually existed. It forced Bad Bunny's team, the NFL and NBC, to respond to and defend a performance that violated nothing. And it reminded every Spanish-speaking artist watching that breaking through on the biggest stages doesn't protect you from having your work called pornographic filth by people with congressional letterhead and enough institutional power to make the government look twice. The walls that kept Bad Bunny at number 13 in the UK charts don't only exist in music, they exist in the political response to cultural success that doesn't look or sound the way certain people think American entertainment should look and sound. Bad Bunny performed clean. The FCC confirmed it. Randy Fine and his colleagues were wrong. The investigation is shelved. The fines will not come. But the pornographic filth label was applied. The investigation was launched. The machinery moved, and everyone in the Latin music community watched and noted exactly what it costs to refuse to translate yourself for an audience that wasn't ready for you. Here's what Bad Bunny will probably do in response to all of this. Nothing. He'll get in his 2003 Corolla, drive through Puerto Rico in complete anonymity, and continue making music entirely in Spanish, with complete disregard for the opinions of politicians who called his Super Bowl performance filth before the FCC cleared it entirely. Because that's who he is. That's who he's always been. The same person who bet on a 90-10 deal when nobody thought it would work, who performed in Spanish at the Super Bowl when people said it wouldn't connect, who wore Zara and honored his uncle's number when he could have chased fashion industry validation, who sold a $3 million Bugatti because a Corolla gave him more freedom. Bad Bunny has never made a decision based on the comfort level of people who weren't going to support him anyway. He's not about to start now because a congressman from Florida called his music filth. Make sure you're subscribed because as Bad Bunny continues building his legacy and as the political response to Latino cultural success keeps revealing itself in stories like this one, we're going to document every chapter of what is genuinely one of the most important cultural narratives happening in music right now. The FCC found nothing. The investigation is over. The complaints were wrong. And Bad Bunny, as always, just kept going. Stay subscribed, because the real story here isn't what the FCC found, it's what the investigation reveals about who still gets to decide what belongs on the biggest stages in American entertainment. And the answer to that question? It's changing, whether certain people are ready for it or not.